Today we're going to talk about Barotrauma. The game, not the medical condition. Barotrauma is a co-op 2D submarine survival RPG set on a hostile alien planet that very badly wants you dead. It's currently in early access and is being worked on by Finnish developers Undertow and Fake Fish Games and published by Daedalic Entertainment, but Barotrauma is the brainchild of Jonas Rakkonen, also known as Regalis, the creator of horror classic SCP Containment Breach. There was an original version of the game known as Legacy Barotrauma, which has been made unavailable in the time since the Steam release. This game had arguably more features than the new one and was free where the Steam release is $30, more about that later, but the intention seems to be to build a new and improved version using lessons learned from Legacy as a blueprint. Undertow has done an excellent job of laying out a coherent roadmap of content and actually delivering on it, all the while sharing concept art and new ideas to look forward to. For the last few months, they've been pushing out a ton of major updates and fixes with no signs of stopping, so I figured now would be a great time to talk about it. For example, at some point when I was not paying attention, they overhauled the whole job system. Each job is now divided into subclasses spec'd to perform certain tasks, and each with their own snazzy outfit. To go with this, changes were implemented in regards to skills. Where previously skill levels were mostly tied to the ability to craft and the speed certain tasks were performed, messing with stuff you aren't properly equipped with the skills to handle can get you hurt now. It's a logical change to the game which makes it more difficult, particularly as a solo player, but I do respect and begrudgingly appreciate the addition of it nonetheless. The game can already be unforgiving and fickle with a steep learning curve, but it could be argued that overcoming the futility and chaos of it all is kind of the point. Another big improvement came in the form of a visual update, which tweaked textures, lighting, and the user interface, and it's subtle in places, brazen in others, but overall it just definitely accomplishes what the devs set out to do. The glow and tangible degradation of devices makes the ship feel that much more dynamic. Darkness is darker and line of sight is more restricted, encouraging players to actually utilize the flares and flashlights that previously made very little difference in most settings. Those suits definitely feel more restrictive than they used to, but it feels honest. The restriction makes old content feel new and scarier. Good planning and threat assessment become higher priorities. By nerfing the mobility and vision of players wearing suits while also slightly buffing their protective qualities, it encourages more cooperation and coordination with players on the sub and the other members of a dive party, where previously someone might just go on ahead and do the whole mission themselves. As for the UI, to be honest, I liked the old UI just fine, but after getting used to the changes, I personally feel that it is an overall improvement from a gameplay and visual perspective. Now on to my favorite addition, Rex. This is something I've wanted to see in the game for as long as I have played it. I feel that Barotrauma's gameplay shines during its artifact retrieval missions. Tense, occasionally frantic excursions into ancient ruins where you must navigate through traps and monsters to secure an artifact. An artifact that in and of itself could cause your sub to, say, burst into flames, or rust over, or attract a horde of monsters if handled incorrectly. There are multiple steps and approaches, so much that can go wrong. It's tense and exciting in a way that the other mission objective alternatives, go here and kill monsters with your ship cannons, or go here and kill one or two big monsters with your ship cannons, or deliver this item from point A to point B while killing monsters with your ship cannons, can often struggle to match. Performing a salvage mission on a mysterious lost sub feels like a natural extension of the energy of the Ruins gameplay that still fills its own niche and diversifies the mission lineup. Also, similar to Rex, but still different, there is a mission to fight an infested ship called a Thalmus. They had a monster ship previously, but instead of an actual ship, it was just a weird little placeholder thing that you couldn't even go inside of. But now there are spooky living monster ships, which is a really refreshing complication of the big kill the monster with a ship cannon mission type. Rex also improved the other missions by adding yet another potential random encounter to the randomly generated world. Just like Ruins, Rex of all sorts can pop up in random places, adding emergent gameplay opportunities. The coolest interaction with a wreck we had was in a mission where it came as a surprise. Realizing that the ground below the sub was actually a massive vessel that had been ripped in half sent genuine shivers of apprehension down my spine, and the inside of this ragged death trap did not disappoint. Reeves cuts in from the bottom and I go in through the massive gaping hole in the top because, I'm not trying to impress anyone. Bodies litter the ship. There is the option to use crew IDs to access closed rooms provided the doors aren't stuck shut, and we didn't because they were all broken and stuck shut, but still that's pretty cool. I found a ship's log that hinted at a clown terrorist plot. Clown terrorists are a big thing in Barotrauma, and sure enough, the next room over was sealed off and contained a man in a clown suit with C4 and a detonator. He was dead. My headset even told me that he was dead, but you can never be too sure. This is a non-player human element the game was sorely lacking. Time will show whether the effect of the human story wears off with repetition once you've found half a dozen terrorist clowns in identical ships. As a fresh addition, this experience was very striking. While I hope that Undertow continues to increase the variety of wrecks, I think the exciting tension of ransacking a derelict vessel in hostile waters can stand on its own, scripted story be damned. But from a single-player perspective, the story elements are a great addition to the RPG feel of Barotrauma. You can see more movement in this direction in the outposts you visit at the start and end of each mission as well. They've begun to open up the space a bit and add additional bots, and though there's still not much to do in them, the framework makes me really excited to see what the dev team eventually adds. Okay, it's the first wreck we are exploring. Everything is spooky and I'm having a great time. When I find the body of the captain I'm supposed to get the log from, but I can't, because I can't grab the log. I can grab it, but I can't grab it, and neither can Reeves, and neither of us were able to pick it up, and then eventually it disappeared for me completely. After trying and failing a few times to pick it up, we got the log onto our ship by cutting the ceiling of the wreck and the floor of our ship and letting the log float up into our ship as it flooded. We thought this plan through completely before enacting it and encountered no issues whatsoever. And eventually the log wound up in our ballast tank. Technically on the ship is the only requirement for artifact retrieval missions, so I figured it was worth a shot, and it worked kind of, because when we completed the mission, Reeves was marked as successful while I was slapped with a big old fail screen. There have been bugs with items glitching out in the past that I have experienced, and having it show up and derail an otherwise excellent experience in the new update was a real bummer. Though we wound up having a fun time working around it, I hope this bug in particular is something that the developers address soon. I've seen it happen fairly regularly for as long as I've owned the game, and it has the potential to render a player's effort pointless at the part of a mission where you're meant to be rewarded, due entirely to the game breaking. This isn't unbearable in individual standalone missions, but in a long campaign where you need to maintain your ship and make money, which I think is meant by the devs to be the ultimate Barotrauma experience, bugs like that are extremely disruptive and frustrating. Onto the AI, because there is friendly AI and they are great for the solo and duo players who don't want to spend the whole mission staring at the reactor. I've played a decent chunk of a campaign solo using the old AI, and I can tell you they were super dumb. But after the update, I'm sure they've gotten much better. I'm sure that I'm ignorant saying this, but personally, I really can't tell the difference. They're still pretty dumb. I think there is something about them knowing how to switch the oxygen in their masks, which is good. I haven't had any of them pass out on me yet, which did happen fairly regularly when I was playing with the old AI, but aside from that, it's fairly the same performance-wise in what I've experienced thus far. The best part of this update, however, is the new reworked bubble command menu system. In the old system, you had to dole out commands to AI or human crew one at a time, where the new one is geared towards queuing up commands through a comprehensive menu that pops up. That way, you can set up plans in the quiet times to keep your ship from sinking while you focus on, the more important things. Now let's talk about the price. $30. The game has grown a lot since launch, and the developers do communicate with and listen to the community, but even in its current state, the game is just barely beginning to justify a $30 entrance fee. That said, I never played the old version and picked the game up on sale, and I've always been decently satisfied, though at first I'll admit I was underwhelmed. The devs are working actively to justify the investment, but I can't help but feel like they may have shot themselves in the foot with that price point so early on. This is a game that is best when you convince a couple of buddies to get it with you, because I'll be frank, most of the public lobbies are nothing short of atrocious. Occasionally entertaining, but atrocious. That isn't to discount the online community as a whole, though. It is possible to find the occasional well-populated public server that isn't a total mess, but I definitely wouldn't go in looking for structure, necessarily. I've come across plenty of people in the community who do play well with others, but unfortunately all it takes is one person with ulterior motives to totally derail a serious playthrough. But that isn't always necessarily a bad thing. From what I've gathered, Barotrauma Legacy functioned as more of a sandbox experience, and those bones are still very much there. When you take away the pressure of a mission structure and set objectives, surviving the shenanigans of random trolls becomes the game. On top of that, the sheer number of custom submarines, even full-fledged cities that you can stumble across and probably die in, make braving the blood-soaked waters worth it from time to time. So how do we get people to cooperate? Is it even possible? The tools to indulge players of all natures are there, and it's up to you to decide how you want to use them. The problem is that griefing and tricking people in this game can be genuinely fun, so creating an outlet for using disguises and deception and sabotage that isn't just kill the engineer and take his ID, then turn all the settings on the nuclear reactor up to max so the ship blows up is a must. The overhauls to Traitor Mode aim to do just that by giving traders a variety of defined objectives to complete rather than just giving a random person a target to kill and sending them on their way to wreak havoc. Traders can still be traitorous, but they are provided with goals to engage with. There are ways this system could be improved, naturally, but it seems to be on the right track design-wise. Ultimately, I am waiting to see how the team at Undertow Games pulls together the marvelous strands of this game and cleans and refines it as they move through their roadmap, which has things like in-game sub-upgrades, new monster variations, map generation improvements like caves, and who knows what else as they draw near the release of the actual end of the game. That's right, this game has a hypothetical ending that you cannot reach because there's nothing in the middle of the planet. As it stands, you are forced to revolve around an unknowable void in an endless loop of discovery and failure as your vessel inevitably crumbles around you, and don't get me wrong, that's my general state of existence, and it hasn't stopped me from having a lot of fun, but I do feel a lack of overall purpose. I look forward to sitting down once and for all and setting out to actually beat this game in whatever form it eventually takes. So that's a status report on Barotrauma in May 2020, but if you own it, what is your experience with Barotrauma? Has your experience been good, bleg, soul-crushingly horrendous? Please let us know in the comments. One way or another, I'll check back in when more big changes are made to see how the game has grown, and if you want to see that or any other videos about games, definitely subscribe. But till next time, I'm Jamie. Thanks for watching Standard Gaming.